Conceive, believe, achieve. Shut the f*** up.
You're listening to Believe You Me with Michael the Count Bisping and Anthony Lionheart Smith.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from Vegas. I'm in Colombia. Paul's in Philadelphia. We have the Underground King, Eddie Alvarez, joining us. Welcome to another episode of the finest MMA podcast on the goddamn planet with the Irish Dragon, Paul Felder. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Michael. I'm back from Vegas, just like you. I'm not in Colombia getting beautiful stem cell work done to fix my body, but, it was a good weekend this past week, dude. You guys did a great job. I was listening in most of the time. You and Dom played nice. Everything was well. No real arguments, right? No real arguments.
No arguments.
Dom's going soft on us, man. He's going soft on us.
Maybe because he's got a fight against Rob Font. He's trying to get people on his side or whatever. But Dom was a dream on Saturday. He was so nice and friendly in the dressing room and everything. I'm like, whoa, what's going on?
Guy?
I know. So Dominic Cruz on his best behavior. His fight with Rob Font, though, he came out and said it's going to be the last fight of his career. Did you see that?
Yeah. And I heard you guys kind of talking about it in the dressing room too. And he almost had an air of. I think that's one of the things that's make him relax too, though, knowing like, okay, he's made the decision. You know what the future holds. You know that this is the last one to go out there. And it's a cool place to go fight. He's fighting in Seattle. He's got a good opponent to go out there against. You know what's interesting, though, is the fact that Cejudo is the main event for that, right? Yeah. And Dom has been very vocal and very clear that the fight that he wanted was him. So I'm curious to see how that all plays out when he's out there.
Yeah, me too. So best of luck with that, Dom. I think he's going to join us next week. As I said, or as you said, I'm out in Colombia, Medellin. Yeah. You've probably never been here, right? If I showed you the view outside my window, it is beautiful. I'm telling you, what a place. I went for a walk last night. I asked a lot of people, said, is it dangerous? They're like, it is very, very safe. That said, there's armed police everywhere. Can't be that.
And that's why it's safe.
That's why it's safe. But they're like, don't wear a Rolex, don't wear any flashy jewelry, and you'll be totally fine, which is like anywhere, really. But yeah, I'm here for Stem Cells, BioAccelerator. Got to give them a shout out. Thank you very much. A lot of UFC fighters come down here and get treatment. Sean O'Malley was down here kind of recently, I think there was a story going around. He got some more.
He got more than just some treatment when he was down there. He got the special treatment from what I remember him saying on his podcast a while back.
He got stem cells in his penis.
Yeah. He talked about how painful that was as well. So.
Yeah. And guess who else is here? Ariane and Brittany, the ring girls.
They are not getting stem cells in their penis, I imagine.
No, they're not. But it's see, you don't understand. People they underestimate how hard it is. The toll it takes on that body, walking around that octagon, holding up a large number one. I mean, years later after
or two, or three, or four, or five, if we're talking main events.
It's a five. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Five gets heavy.
You take it for granted. This is the sacrifice that these girls make. Okay, they're down here getting stem cells, rebuilding their body.
You know what I know? Every time we're calling fights, or more importantly, when I'm working the desk and I'm just watching from like right behind you guys, watching the girls walk around, they almost get knocked off of that octagon catwalk every single show by a corner man who backs up without them seeing, and somebody catches them. Have they ever fallen off?
No, not that I know of, but you're right, because I see that all the time as well. Not only cornermen, but cameramen as well, because cameramen are leaning over the top and they almost bump them off.
Back up.
Yeah. All jokes aside, but it's funny because I did bring up Sean O'Malley having stem cells in his penis, in his cock, and I said, hey, can I get in on that action? Right? So, well, why not? I'm getting it everywhere else. You know what I mean? If it gives you a bit of a bump. And I'm like, what does it do? And they're like, yeah, it just like improves the sensation. I'm like, forget it. I don't need the sensation improved. My sensation is just fine.
You'll be done in 3 seconds. Huh?
I don't need to improve the sensation. I want to slow roll it. Anyway, then the guy, he said, yeah, absolutely. No problem. I can set that up for you. Then he started telling a story about this guy that came, an older fella. He was 70. And what they do is they put a rubber band around the base of the penis. And that kind of like, that's how they manipulate it. And then they inject it and stuff, like a little needle and whatnot. But they put a rubber band on it. And when the guy left, he forgot to take the rubber band off. And he almost had to have his penis removed because it cut off all the blood to his cock. Yeah. And when I heard that, I'm like, one, I've got enough sensation. Two, you know what? I'm done. I thought it was just a case of, a little tick, a little something like that, a little prick. But yeah, no, when I heard a story about somebody almost losing their dick, I'm like, I'm out of here.
No effing way. Needles into your penis. I'm sorry. No, no. But I would ask too. If I was down there, I'd have been like, what's going on with this? What's the procedure exactly like? And as soon as they said that, I'd have been with you. I was out.
I'm a stallion anyway. What can I say? I don't need it. I don't need performance enhancements. Anyway, we were there in Vegas on Saturday. Obviously, we've got Eddie Alvarez joining today. We've got UFC 311 this weekend as well. So a lot to talk about. Got to start with the fights on Saturday. Now, where do we start? Because obviously the main event, Mackenzie Derns, was incredible. There were some crazy knockouts, though.
Oh, man. It was like 7 knockouts on Saturday. Some
wild ones. That Cesar Almeida, Abdulrazak Al Hassan.
Dude. Oh, my God. That was one of the more brutal ones that I've seen in a while. He was flatlined, and he was down for a while. So I'm glad that he got up, but you saw it too. He could barely even get himself out of that octagon and down those steps. I thought maybe the stretcher was even going to come out for a while there. And you know what? We talked about it on the post show too, that the kickboxing advantage of Almeida really showed itself, because when you're an elite striker, not just an MMA fighter, you're used to those exchanges. Not only that, but you're used to getting hurt, getting back up, getting yourself back into the fight. And all that experience that Almeida has showed tremendously in that, because in those firefights, guys like him, Alex Pereira, that's where they show that they're actually strikers. You know what I mean? They're learning MMA on the job, whereas kickboxing, you want to just stand and trade. And that's why he was so excited about that fight, that he knew Al Hassan was going to trade. And it looked like he was out. Me and Michelle Watterson were arguing the whole time because we had separate picks throughout the night, and we were kind of tied up on who was getting them right. And when he knocked, I picked Almeida for that one. So I was just, I was walking around the green room upstairs, flaunting it up.
Yeah. As you do.
This is my house.
Exactly. Let that be a lesson, though, to any young up-and-coming fighters, because we talk about it on commentary all the time. When you hurt somebody, you want to capitalize on the moment, but you can't get too carried away, because that's what happened. Abdulrazak dropped him with the right hand, thought, he's done, he's out of here, went on the attack like crazy, forgot about the defense, and then just a massive hook from Almeida. And it was bad, man. He was out for a while.
Bad. It was bad. I was worried, but he was obviously, he was snoring, which means he's breathing. So I figured he'd be okay. But then when he wasn't up again, and even when he got on the stool, he kept slipping off of his elbow when he was trying to lean down. And you're right. You're right. And you got to know who you're fighting, right? If you're fighting a wrestler and he's hurt like that, you got to be a little worried about the shot. When you're fighting an elite kickboxer who's got a ton of experience in those types of situations, man, you can't just go in for the kill all wild. You got to pick your shots, and maybe you don't get him out of there, right? He's the kind of guy where, all right, I hurt him, but he's back and he's got his wits about him. He paid for it.
Now, we got to talk about, and well done to Almeida, by the way. We got to talk about Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. Now, you have an opinion. I don't know what it is, because we text a couple of times. Other than that, I've been getting my dick stem celled. So I don't know what it is. I hope, for the sake of the podcast, that we differ in our opinions. And my opinion, I'll be honest, it's a little bit wishy-washy. So for anyone that doesn't know, Saturday night, Chris Curtis, Kopylov had a really good opening round, looked incredible. Chris Curtis had a really good second round. Third round was a bit of both, but Kopylov was kind of taking over a little bit. Catches him, I think it was a right hand, a left hand, whatever it was, wobbles him, and then then a high kick, drops him. He drops down to his knees. He's looking up. Kopylov knew there was only a few seconds of the fight left, turns around and walks away. Mark Smith, the referee, who's a tremendous ref, and they have a hard job, right? And I like Mark Smith, and he cares about what he does. You know what these refs are like. They're constantly coming up to us and saying, what do you think?
Opinions.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, it's fine. It's fine. So I don't want to shit on him. So he called the fight off. Initially, I thought that was a crazy call. Eric Nixick was losing his mind. Chris Curtis was screaming at the top of his voice. For a minute there, I was like, shit, we got a bit of a situation here on our hands, because Eric Nixick was really, really upset What was your opinion on all that, Paul?
So I agree with you that I do see the case for what happened, right? But I don't see it as strongly, and I kind of am on the side of Chris Curtis. Now, I'm not saying that he was going to win the fight. He was going to lose that round because of how the end of the third round went. He was hurt before that head kick. Then he was really hurt with the head kick. And I know that it's not the ref's job to worry about what the clock says. He hears the 10-second clapper. He's prepared to step in at the end. That's all he needs to know. He is watching those fighters. But when the opponent walks across the octagon and is nowhere near in a position to finish the fight or threaten him, Chris Curtis wasn't out cold. He was hurt badly. No doubt about it. And if there was more time on the clock and Kopylov initiated more strikes, the fight is over right then and there, of course. Yep. I think stepping in. But I feel like as a referee, you don't have to worry about the time on the clock, but you do have to understand that the opponent is nowhere near him and he's not out cold. He's getting back up to his feet. And you know it's almost the end of the fight. I do think he shouldn't have stepped in and stopped it. I think he should have waited for Kopylov to try to get in and see what Chris was going to do. And by then the fight was going to be over no matter what. So I agree that it shouldn't have been stopped. It should have went to the judge's scorecard. I think because of where Kopylov went, he walked off KO. And it's because he was exhausted too. I don't know if you remember that third round, he started to fade bad, but he hurt him bad enough. It didn't matter. So I understand what Mark Smith did, but I think it was the wrong move. I think you let him get to the bell.
So do I. And just hearing you talk now, I mean, I've gone back and forth in my own mind, arguing with myself. And Harrington, just look up the statement from Big John McCarthy. If you just Google it, because Big John, he's the first ever MMA referee. He knows this sport inside out, knows the rule book. And he said, when you hear that 10-second clapper, the referee should be counting down in their mind. So therefore, he kind of knows how long he's left.
And that's from a ref saying that, right? Yeah. So, I mean, we can say that, but we don't know that job. But that Big John knows that effing job.
100% inside out. But no, just aside from that, I remember when I saw Kopylov walking away, I thought, what are you doing? You could have finished him because Chris Curtis was on his hands and knees. He was clearly conscious. Yes, if he dived on him and threw a few more shots, yeah, he probably would have got finished. But that didn't happen. It's not supposed to be about if, buts, and maybes and hypothetical situations. He walked away. And I think there was a bit of confusion with Mark Smith as well because he kind of took his time for a second and then he waved it off.
Yeah.
And then that's when all shit hit the fan.
I think, and I don't know if Kopylov did this on purpose. I think it was because he was kind of tired and it was the end of the fight anyway, and he knew he won no matter what. The head kick sealed the deal for him, right? But that is what won him the fight that way. The fact that he walked away, I think, sort of made Mark Smith kind of go, it's over. Whereas if Kopylov had tried to get him, if Kopylov had tried to get him, right, Chris would have rolled to his back. The fight would have been over because there was literally seconds left. By the time he actually got over to him to land more strikes, it would have went to a decision.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just feeling.
So that walk off, I know I was screwing with mine too a second ago. So the walk off in a way kind of got him the stoppage.
I think it's better without the light. What do you think? Hold on. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, here's the statement from Big John. Good job, Harrington. If you're looking at what happened with Curtis got hurt. He got hit with a good kick and he goes down on his side, but he's looking towards his opponent. And that's a relevant point. And his opponent's walking off. He had nothing to defend. Don't stop the fight there. If he's out, stop the fight. But if he's not and his opponent's walking off, and I've already heard the 10-second clapper counting off in my head. If you're doing the job correctly, I don't stop the fight. And that's from Big John.
That's exactly the argument that I've been trying to make, but Big John is actually putting it better in writing there because
he articulated it perfectly.
He's looking. Chris is hurt and he's bad, but guys, I was arguing with people on X about it too. They're like, he wasn't intelligent in defending himself. I'm like, do you guys understand what that means? Intelligently defending yourself means you're blocking things. You're aware of things.
There's nothing to defend.
There's nothing to defend. He's looking at his opponent. He's trying to get his wits about him. You're allowed to be rocked and fight. It's MMA fighting. You're going to get dizzy. You're going to get your wits all rattled around in your head. The fact that he's trying to get up, just means it's almost over, right? You're allowed to be on the ground hurt. It's not boxing. You don't have to get up. You don't have to have a standing 8 count. You can be wobbled as long as you are somewhat coherent to try to defend yourself. Now, yeah, he was rocked bad. He got hit on the side of the neck. That's going to take your legs out from under you. But the fact that Kopylov is nowhere to be seen means you don't stop the fight. And again, just like you said, Mark Smith, he's my dude. I talk to him all the time. But I think he got caught up in the moment. I think he saw Kopylov walk up. I think he was worried about Chris. He stopped the fight. I think maybe he forgot that the fight was literally about to be over.
Yeah. No, and I feel for Mark Smith because he's
I'll talk to him about it. If he asks me about it the next time, I'm going to say, Mark, I think you're the man. I think you do a great job. But I think I think you got that one wrong, man. And I've told a few guys before that I'm like, I think maybe it was early. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, I do. But I always say to them, I'm not in there. I don't see the guy's eyes as close as you do. So.
Well, I feel for them because it's a tough job, but just know, because we speak to them, they take this extremely seriously. They do not take it lightly. And
Mark was sweating, dude. I don't know if you saw, like, when he was like raising their hands and Chris wouldn't even let him hold his wrist. And you could see, and that's when he pulls at my heartstrings, because I'm like, this dude's a pilot. This dude's got other things that he's doing in his life. And he wants nothing but the best for these guys, right? He just wants these guys to get into that cage, make their money, get out, and not be permanently damaged. And when they get one wrong or they make a subtle mistake like that, it's like
my Beltron came up to me early because I think he stopped the Abdul Razak Al Hassan one, and he was like, he went down hard, Mike. I'm like, oh yeah,
whoa. That one needed to be stopped.
I was like, Mike, no problem, but that was the right call.
You got it right, man.
He was almost dead. Okay, and we're not joking, Abdul. I hope you're resting up well and recovering. Harrington, real quick, let's get a crazy take from Harrington. Harrington, if you are there, sir, what was your opinion on this?
I mean, obviously with 1 second left, you never know what can happen. So you got to err towards saving the fight. No, of course, man. You let that thing go to a decision. But I'm not a fair judge in this one because I was backing Chris Curtis. So it was like, I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't change the outcome, so be it. But I think
I picked on the desk. I mean, I did pick Chris Curtis. So I mean, but he wasn't going to win anyway, right, Harrington? He was going to lose that decision. So it's not like I was even upset because of that. When a guy's in a fight of the night, he's in an absolute battle. He puts his heart and his soul into everything of that. He's coming off a ton of injuries. And again, none of this is the ref's job to be concerned about. But as a viewer, I know what Chris has gone through to get back to the octagon. He's had a lot of setbacks recently, and he's had a lot of bad luck, unfortunately, inside of the cage, dude, with fouls. And he got fouled twice in that fight as well.
That's what I was going to say. Chris Curtis might just be, sorry to interrupt, he might just be one of the most, unluckiest fighters.
I think he is, man.
Because he's a really nice guy. Right. When you speak to Chris Curtis, he's got great energy. He's fun. He's not a boring guy at all. There's not controversy, but now he's lost to Kopylov. He's lost to Brendan Allen. That was a split decision. The head clash with Nasruddin Imavov. There was a split decision to Kelvin Gastelum, I think. It was again with Jack Hermanson. He's been really unlucky on some of the scorecards. So I feel for the guy because that one, it was a tricky one. It was, but he was going to lose anyway.
He was going to lose, but he deserved the right to at least have his, to stand there and know, like, we went 3 hard rounds, and it was one apiece. It was one apiece officially. You guys talked about it that the judges' scorecards did have it 1-1, so that round was the round to win. And imagine if early on those 2 fouls, if a point had been taken, then it would have really mattered, but. Unfortunately, no point was taken because of the fouls. But if it had, it would have been a draw potentially.
For anybody listening that maybe thinks, well, it doesn't matter. So what? Either way, he lost. I know. As fighters,
you want that decision versus a TKO.
There's a moral victory in not getting finished because, that's when it starts to, and it shouldn't, but it starts to feel a little embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? When you get finished, I'll take, because I remember when I fought Vanderlei Silva, I was walking backstage and I said to my wrestling coach at the time, Zach Light, and I was like, oh, well, split decision. He's like, no, unanimous, Mike. I'm like, no, it was a split. He's like, no, Mike, it was unanimous. And I'm like, oh. And then that just like made me feel even worse. Like, I'll take a split over a decision. I'll take a decision over a knockout.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. Because you can look at that and be like, because I've got a lot of split decisions. I lost, I think, like 5 split decisions in the UFC. And that's one of my claims to fame, right? Is like nobody really put me away. But it's talking to your point, like, yeah, I'd rather that. Like, nobody ever really beat my ass, right? I never got the belt. I never did a lot of things. But one of the things that didn't happen was people didn't whip my ass when I was in there. And that's kind of what Chris could have said. Is like, look, we had a fight of the night battle. I lost a decision. He beat me in the 3rd round. He got the better shots at the end in a close round until the last couple minutes. But instead, he's got, was it KO or TKO? Because if it's a TKO, that's usually because you're getting punched and you're not defending yourself. So what was it even? You know what I mean? It wasn't a knockout because he wasn't out. It wasn't a TKO because there was no follow-up shots. It was just the refs deciding to stop it at a weird time. It just seemed weird.
Well, he probably got, I think he did, an extra 50K anyway. I saw Chris Curtis actually, he put a tweet out. He said, it's one of those weird situations where I'm complaining. I made $200,000. I got an extra 50K for fight of the night, and I'm feeling sorry for myself. He said, I understand. I'm in a very unique position. Not a lot of people can earn $250,000 in a night and still feel bad.
And be mad.
Yeah. He said, but I am. And I totally get it.
I saw that. And I liked that he came out. And Eric Nixick also went out and kind of apologized and just backed his guys and put some of it on himself. And that just shows you that that's the kind of coach that Eric is, where he's like, there's things that maybe I could have done to tell him this and that. And, at the end of the day, it's a fight. It's a fight and things happen.
I love seeing coaches like that, though. Like my old boxing coach, Mark Kinney, when I fought Jorge Rivera in Australia, and he'd been making these videos, and anyone that's followed my career or this podcast, they know what I'm talking about. Oh, shit, hit the fan afterwards, and I spat on the floor, and it got
I remember that one.
In his face, but I didn't spit it in anyone's face. I spat on the floor, so a piece of shit. And then my boxing coach runs in, and he starts and all the rest of it, and all shit hit the fan.
He's got your back.
Yeah, Dana was not happy. And I remember Mark Kinney came in, my boxing coach, and he's like, Dana just went mad at me. He said, what are you doing? What are you doing? He said, he was talking shit about England. And Dana said to him, yeah, so what? You're in your 50s. Grow up. What are you, a child? And I was like, he's kind of got a point, to be fair. But I love it when coaches have their fighters back like that.
Yeah, you can tell he's great. He's a great dude, and he's got their backs. He's ride or die with all those guys when he's in there, and you love to see it. And that's how it should be. He didn't start a fight. He was just complaining. He was bitching. He's allowed to bitch if he thinks that the wrong move was made against his own fighter. So it just sucks.
You've never met the guy, but Mark Kinney, my old boxing coach, this just popped in my head, talking about like Philly and old school guys and boxers and all the rest of it. He's a Scouser. He's from Liverpool. He's an old school rugged guy. Great. One of the best boxing coaches going. I'll never forget. We're going through the airport, flying to one of my fights, and we're going through security. And the TSA says, you got any weapons on you? And he goes, left hook, right hand. Because he just can't turn it off for a second. It was absolutely hilarious. Anyway, let's just quickly rhyme off. We won't go through it all. Mackenzie Derns, phenomenal armbar. It was a rematch. She looked incredible. Santiago Ponzinibbio, very happy for him. Jump in at any time if you want, Paul. We got lots of other stuff to talk about. Kopylov looked great. Christian Rodriguez looked phenomenal.
I want to talk about that. That fact that Christian, comes in as an underdog. I couldn't believe that he was an underdog against the Bashi kid making his debut. Bashi's a stud, and he's still going to be a stud. Absolutely. But I think credit's got to be given to young Christian Rodriguez, who's taken the O's from these kind of up-and-coming kids coming off the Contender Series. He is so calm and collected. He's a young guy, and I just hope he can continue to string things together like that and get some bigger fights. Not that he's deserving to be fighting the top 10 or anything quite yet, but I think he's got the skills to be eventually there. He's still pretty young. Is Christian even 30 yet? I don't even know if he is.
Look it up. Just quick question, Paul, because I know you do know Christian a little bit. Do you know who he was flipping off in the crowd mid-fight? Somebody said something to him. Yeah, he texted me that somebody said something to him. I put the video in here if you want to play it.
Oh, yeah. I want to see this video because also, there was a guy in the crowd. Maybe it's the same guy. He was wearing like a brown and white kind of flannel shirt. And Dominic Cruz was saying, see that dickhead over there? He was trying to fight me at the PI. Hold on, let's have a look. I can't see who it is.
Somebody probably just talking shit.
Yeah.
You know.
No, there was someone in the PI, in the Apex, and Cruz was like, yeah, that guy was trying to fight me at the PI. I said, hold on, like spar? He's like, no, fight, trying to fight me legit. We still hear that coming through, Brian. There you go. Thanks, buddy. Anyway, we'll get that story from Cruz when he comes on next week.
To answer your question, C-Rod just turned 27.
Dude.
Thank you, Harrington.
Got a lot of future for him, man. A lot of future for that kid.
He was very, very impressive. I want to talk about this, though, real quick. We got lots of other stuff. But the guy that he fought, Austin Bashi, and if Austin Bashi's listening to this, please don't be offended by what I say. I thought he's a stud. He was undefeated. He was 13-0. He had a really good performance on the Contender Series. With respect, he's still a child. He's 23. My son is 23.
Yeah.
And he's clearly got all the ingredients to go on and become a great fighter. He just went up against a really good fighter with more experience. I mean, the man just made his UFC debut. When I spoke to him on the fighter meetings, and again, if you see this, I'm not talking shit. A lot of people, and you must have seen this, Paul, when you speak to people at the fighter meetings and they haven't signed with the UFC, and they kind of think they're going to walk in and they're going to take over and they're just going to walk through everyone because they're the next thing coming and they're the representation of the next generation of MMA. And I train for 10 to 12 hours a day, every day. And I'm like, well, number one, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. That's insane. That's insane. And I said to him, I said, but you are stepping up. And, you know, you're going to get somebody like this. As I said, I'm not criticizing. I don't think some people, when they make their UFC debut, don't necessarily understand the level in competition and the jump that is. Now, granted, there is, you know, the threshold compared to 2002 or 2005 or whatever. No, 2010, let's say. It's come down a bit because there's a much, much bigger roster. But when you step up to the UFC, there's a big jump there.
Yeah, there's a big jump. And you didn't get handed one of the other guys on Contender that maybe snuck in, maybe got a contract, and you know it was a weaker night on the Contender Series, and they needed somebody to get signed. Christian's good, and you should have known that he's really good. If you watched him fight, you shouldn't have had that attitude that you're going to just walk through that kid. Nobody walked through him yet. I mean, he got caught. Was it 2 fights ago, or maybe the fight before it, and it happens, but. It's a big jump, man. It's a different world.
He was the first one to beat Raul Rosa Jr. And he was like, you know, young, dumb, and full of cum, still is, and God bless him, and he's still having a great career. And yeah, so for Austin Bashi, it's just a learning curve. Anyway, should we hear from Eddie Alvarez? Should we get Eddie Alvarez on the show? Because I think he might be backstage. Your mate.
Yeah, Philly.
All right, today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Now, I have used Acorns myself, and it is the best way for everyone to start saving and investing. In fact, you can get started with just your spare change. Plus, you can earn bonus investments just for buying what you need from brands you love. Small steps today can have a huge impact on your future. From Acorns, mighty oaks do grow. So please get growing that oak. What am I talking about? Well, you sign up to Acorns, a little bit of each transaction goes into an account, into your Acorns account every time you buy something. And what I opted for was the roundup as well. So let's say something's $1.60, that 40 cents rounds up. So 40 cents went in. And before I knew it, it had amassed quite a lot of money. And I'll be honest, because you're not putting money to one side, you're just spending money as usual, and it's a few cents going away. You don't miss it. You're not even aware of it, really. And then you forget all about it. And then when you go back, you're like, oh, look at that. The acorn has grown into a mighty oak. So if your New Year's resolution this year is to, save a little bit more and put some money away for a rainy day, then Acorns is here to help that. Because, listen, we all want to save, but we want to live our lives. Acorns allows you whilst you're living your life, to be able to put a little bit to one side, okay? And by the way, only 8% of people stick with their New Year's resolution. So if it was to save some money with Acorns, you can lock in years and years of healthy money habits in just 5 minutes. That is all it takes to start saving and investing your money so it has a chance to grow. So as I said, Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing so your money has a chance to grow for you, your kids, and your retirement. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money that you've got right now. You can start with just $5 or even just your spare change. Head to acorns.com/believe or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing in your future. Paid client endorsement compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risks. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/believe. All right, so as I said, we are joined by the one and only Eddie Alvarez. Eddie, that is quite the backdrop you got there, brother. Look at all that stuff. Come on.
Oh man, yeah, there's a lot of years. I played the time game. I know if I just stayed in long enough, I'd get something.
Yeah, man, that is quite the cachet of belts and awards and stuff like that. Out of all of that back there, what's your most prized possession?
I had a mug. It was the best dad mug. So no, but yeah, I think UFC Gold was awesome. I got badgered about it for years. No matter what title I won, no matter where I went, or no matter who I beat outside the promotion, people would just say, "Hey, you can never do it here. You can never do that." So it's almost like I was obligated to try to go there and win it in order to like. I just felt the need to have to do that in order to cement something, you know.
Eddie, before we even get into the X's and O's of the fight coming up and stuff like that, I mean, did you watch yesterday? What's going on? Are we happy with what went down yesterday with the birds?
Yeah, boy. You know, Mark Henry always gets on me because I don't become a monster fan until we start winning in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and he's like, you don't know shit about football, and the truth is, I don't. But yeah, I always want Philadelphia to win. We watched the game last night. I don't know a lot of players. I don't watch a lot of sports, to be honest with you.
Oh, dude, I'm the same as you, Eddie. Don't worry. I want everybody to win. I'm Philly through and through, but we got other things going on. We did it a sport on our own. You're still doing it, so it's like I ain't got time to memorize the whole roster. Do you know what I mean?
No. And I just want more importantly, I just want Mark Henry's Bills to lose, and I want Philly to keep winning so I can just fuck with them throughout the playoffs.
There you go.
Let me ask, for those people that don't know, they probably do. You're both from Philadelphia, two of the most prolific fighters to come from the city. Do you guys know each other? Do you have a relationship? I'm unaware. Pardon me.
We trained like early on. I didn't. Eddie was in Florida for a long time. I was in Daniel Gracie's gym for a while, but then for a while I went and I was training with Mark Henry and all those guys. And Eddie has punched me in the face and slammed me to the mat many a time, many a time.
We went at Paul. Honestly, whenever I would hit Paul, I'd yell anger because I knew he was coming at me. And he was too predictable because he would get so angry when you hit him. But it was always good training sessions. And he would come up Ricardo Almeida's, and he was working with us extensively until he went back down to Philly and started working with them guys there. But we had some fun rounds for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna hear some of those stories one day, because even though I've never trained with Paul, we've done this once or twice over the years.
Yeah,
in the commentary. I may or may not have had Paul Felder in my face at 4 a.m. after tons of whiskey.
Oh my God! Well, and you know what though? That was all. That was my fault, because Mike, from the beginning of that night, this is years ago in London, and he told me I don't do shots. I can't do shots of whiskey, and me pushed him, and before you know it, I'm talking about he's not that tall, messing with him. He's making fun of my nickname, and then Laura Senko, thank God, gets in between the two of us, and it's all been water under the bridge since.
Yeah, Mike likes to fuck with people. I mean, you're an expert with people. You're an expert at it. You should be from Philadelphia, to be honest with you.
Well, you know what? I always say this. I was having this conversation on the plane because I'm in Colombia right now. People on the East Coast, I have much more affinity with them. I just get along with them way easier. They just seem more like English people. You know what I mean? The sense of humor is very, very similar. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Eddie Alvarez, the former UFC lightweight champion of the world. You've got a big fight coming up against Jeremy Stephens. You were the lightweight champion. So we're going to ask you about the big title fight this weekend as well. But do you mind, Eddie, and I hope this doesn't seem disrespectful, just going back to UFC, was it 205? When you fought Conor McGregor, just talk about that whole experience for me.
When in 205, when I fought Conor, I was coming off the title when I won the world title against Dos Anjos, and I think for me, it wasn't so much the fight with Conor that was overwhelming. It was my change in lifestyle, being UFC champion, that was overwhelming for me. If I could go back in retrospect, I would have gave myself a little bit of time to digest it before I actually fought as a defending champion. The whole whirlwind of media, of obligations and all that, I never wanted. I wanted the money and I wanted the belt. I never understood. I didn't understand that world of media, of obligations, of having to be somewhere and talk about the fight. So Conor was excellent at that. He was well trained at it. And, it's something that I guess I forgave myself, but in my competitive career, it's very difficult because although I know it's not who I am, how I competed in this one night, it is how you're defined by a large audience, because maybe that audience only seen you that one time. So I'll never be able to truly digest it in a good way, but it happened. It was an experience I had, and the fight week was fun. The build-up was fun. I would have liked to compete better, Yeah.
Do you know what? Let me just jump in there real quick, Paul. I know exactly what you're talking about, Eddie, because when I fought George St. Pierre, I didn't have him talking shit, but the sheer magnitude of the event, I was also a champion as well. And, I come from a very working class background. So it felt weird. There was a little bit of imposter syndrome, perhaps, or whatever. Obviously, I'd fought all over the world and I'd been main events, but never something that kind of spectacle. And even though I was super experienced, I kind of feel that the moment did kind of affect me as well.
Honestly, I just created a training facility out in Bucks County, PA, and we do a part of me training the new up and coming kids and the new up and coming crop is going to largely be putting them in weird situations, putting them where their families come in and watch them spar. Or maybe today we're going somewhere foreign. We're not training in our gym. And it's a skill. What I realized is that's a skill. And if you don't train it and then you have to get ready for it, it's not good. You could lose a very big fight in a very big way. So it's kind of like one of them skills that you don't know you have to have. And I will be teaching the next up and coming crop, how to deal with them uncomfortable situations or media or just being somewhere different and very uncomfortable and just getting training in that,
I think we can see the Irish Dragon coming out right now. Everything okay with you there, Paul?
Dude, my volume right now is turning itself down on its own no matter what I do right now. I don't know why it is doing that. It keeps muting itself.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. See what you can do. Eddie, obviously you're fighting Jeremy Stephens. Now you're in bare knuckle. Talk to me about bare knuckle. How did you get into that? And what do you make of it? Because obviously on the outside, it looks very gruesome and all the rest of it. There's a ton of blood. And obviously the knuckles can cut when you don't have gloves on them. How have you found that transition from MMA to bare knuckle?
Bare knuckle is unique. And, it's unique in that the hands aren't wrapped. And a lot of times when the hands are wrapped, you can make a good solid cast on even a broken hand and still be able to fight. But with bare knuckle, you have to punch correctly the same way you would have to run correctly if you had bare feet. But you have to punch correctly and you have to pick your shots. The shots can't be winging, aimless shots like some guys do. They have to be placed correctly, and a lot of it's technique and placement. That way you're hitting the soft tissues, you're not hitting someone's forehead and things like that. So I like it. I like the nuances of it. And I was instrumental in helping it get approved in Philadelphia. And that was my dream was to bring bare knuckle to Philadelphia and to a big, large stadium like the Wells Fargo.
Nice. Well, congrats. I mean, Jeremy Stevens, we know he's going to bring it because he's always a lot of fun, and it's funny because, I mentioned Conor McGregor there. He kind of has a little thing with Conor McGregor being the who the is that guy as well. Conor McGregor's involved in BKFC though, right? Have you run into him at all?
We haven't spoke about it yet. He was at my first bare knuckle fight, the Chad Mendez fight, as a spectator, and I think that's kind of when he decided, like, I need to be a part of this sport, and it's when I decided, hey, this thing is going to take off, and I knew that right after that fight because at that time, Kamaru Usman, Justin Gaethje, Cowboy Cerrone, you name it, we were entertaining some of the most entertaining fighters in the world. And when I got to sit back and watch the fights, there's nothing really like it. The pacing, the chaos, the speed of them. They're only 2-minute rounds, so you don't really get tired. They're really fun.
Yeah. No, I've never been to one, but I do want to check one out because that's all I hear. I mean, I've seen some of the videos of the crowds and stuff. I see people losing their minds and whatnot. McGregor does a good job of hyping the crowd up as well. He did when he was out in Spain anyway. So yeah.
Well, what are you doing on January 25th? I don't think there's a UFC, so you got no excuse, Mike.
January 25th. Do you know where I'll be? I'll be on a bloody plane to Saudi Arabia.
Oh man,
I know. I gotta get my drinking in now. I'll be on my way to Saudi Arabia, then off to Sydney. Obviously 2-minute rounds, punching only, boxing only. How old are you now, Eddie?
I'm 41. Yes, not yesterday. January 11th.
How's the body feel?
Better than ever.
Oh, nice.
You know what, Mike? We're a lot in common in this. I was able to last so long in the sport. One, I never wrestled in college, and I think that takes years off someone's longevity. I think it's great to have as a fighter, but I also think it has its negatives in that it's so much wear and tear. Two, I never did a single steroid or enhancement my entire life, and I think that is one of the biggest things that speed up you being out the door early in your career. Never did an enhancement ever. And I always, whenever I got injured or even remotely injured, I scaled back and I just said, no, I'm not going to fight, or I'm going to let this injury get good. Then 3 things allowed me to fight 21 years now, fresh and healthy. My resting heart rate is 37 beats a minute. I'm young as I've ever been, but more than ever, I have the gratitude and excitement inside of my training camps. And that's kind of what I gauge is the energy and excitement that I have to the fight that I'm about to fight. And if that wears and goes down, then I know I need to scale back and not fight so much. So that's greater than ever. So I'm excited about this fight. I'm excited about the opponent they put in front of me.
Eddie, 21 years, man. That's incredible. That really is such an achievement. People have no idea. I mean, I had a pretty long career, but 21 years. I mean, that is insane. I mean, congrats on a legendary career, everything you've achieved. I think you brought up a good point about the longevity, because all of my injuries, as I say, I'm in Colombia getting stem cells on my neck from wrestling. It all comes from bloody wrestling. My son was a college wrestler. He had to cut it short because he had about 4 surgeries. And then in the end, he had to weigh up, is this really worth it, having surgeries at such a young age? Hold on. Yeah. The Irish Dragon is back. Are you with us, brother?
My volume is not turning itself. I don't know what ghost just entered the house right now, but it didn't want me having this conversation for some reason. I'm sorry if I missed anything good there, guys.
Nah, it's all good, Paul. I got time, so we're all good.
Eddie was just telling us 21 years as an athlete. So the point I was going to say, Eddie, so now preparing for bare knuckle, even though it's a tough sport and wildly exciting, way less wear and tear on the body, right?
It's people laugh, but I'm like, these camps are so easy compared to a UFC. Forget about a UFC title fight. It's not even comparable. But a UFC regular feature fight where it's 3 5-minute rounds, way, way more difficult than a bare knuckle training camp. And the best thing of all is I know there's a great chance that I'm going to get through the entire camp. In MMA, I don't know. I start the camp and I cross my fingers and I go, man, I hope I don't get in a wrestling exchange or a kicking exchange and I twist something up. So there's a little more predictability in the training. You have a little bit more control, you know?
And Eddie, when it comes to a training camp for bare knuckle, right? It's totally different than a boxing camp, right? Boxing, there's gloves on. The range is totally different. So what does training camp look like? Obviously, mostly hands. There's a little bit of clinch because you guys can kind of grab and dirty box a little bit. What's sparring like? Like, how do you guys prepare for that kind of range? Because even in a street fight, you know how it is. You've been in many. It's that range is a little scary because every punch that lands, even though the knockout power might be a little different because it's bare knuckle, each shot kind of, it stings a little more because it's straight knuckles.
You're 100% right. So there's no way to spar bare knuckle. Like you have to put gloves on, right? And a lot of the guys I spar with are pro boxers. They won't even spar unless you put 16-ounce gloves on. So like, if I told them, hey, we're going to do lighter gloves, they're like, well, I'm not sparring you. So if you want to go with high-level guys and do it professionally, you're going to put 16-ounce gloves on. You're going to put your headgear on, mouthpiece, and do it the right way. So my sparring is done traditional boxing. Everything outside of sparring is done with just my wraps, some kind of wrap, and I even wrap my knuckles so I just don't break anything open.
Save them a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because if you break it open, then it gets annoying throughout the whole camp, infection, stuff like that. So I wrap, and then I still get to feel the lightness. I get to feel the range, and you truly do fight different when you have nothing on your hands. And from having something on your hands, when you don't, it almost feels like a knife fight. Like I can't even get touched, or else that touch could mean the fight's completely over. The gash you can get, or the broken hand. So you have to be very selective with your shots. You gotta aim small, miss small, and stay a lot tighter than you normally do.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it kind of. I'm not discrediting the sport, but it's kind of similar to a street fight. If two guys in the street that knew how to use the hands, they're going to be throwing fists. And then to your point, look at Luke Rockhold against Mike Perry. He was doing pretty good, but one crack bust all of his teeth, and that's it. The fight was over. As Paul just mentioned there, you're from Philadelphia, the mean streets of Philadelphia. And he said you've had a few street fights over the years. And when you were saying that, I was thinking back, like, you do have that kind of level of anxiety. I haven't had a street fight in goddamn years, but there must be a lot of adrenaline when you're in there, Eddie.
Well, yeah. So we don't even line up across the ring from each other where the ref says, "Go ahead." You're two or 3 foot in front of the guy. My foot's on the line. Your foot's on the line, and you're if I'm like this,
so you're in
and I'm
slapping distance.
Toe the line, baby. Toe the line, right? Isn't that what it says?
Go, and then you fucking off.
And you're like, you feel like you're about to fly.
I watched it, one of the cards not too long ago. There was no UFC on and stuff like that. I was like, I'll check this out. And you can tell, Eddie, too, there's significantly, you can see who's the boxers and who are guys that kind of got into it to just be a bit of a brawler. And it's night and day difference. How do you see this fight between you two guys going? Because you both know how to throw hands, and you can tell throughout these cards, as it gets to the main event, it gets slicker, and guys use their jab. The guys that seem to use their jab effectively tend to do really well. Do you feel like that's even more so in bare knuckle to have a solid jab and movement? Because your ring that you guys are fighting, it kind of almost puts you right on top of each other as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I got bare knuckle to put an official size ring in my facility, so I was able to train in it for the last 2-3. And it's not even official size. Actually, the one I got is 15 foot. So you can't. Right now in my training, I'm throwing 75 to 80 punches around on average in a 2-minute round. And so we're forced to throw high volume, forced to train at a high level. That way, when I do get into the official size one, 22 foot, it feels like a day off almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Restate your question again.
Just
Paul.
Talking about the jab, like when I was watching the guys on the bare knuckle card, the ones that seemed to do really well, that had the better skills, man, they just used that jab, and because it's so effective with the bare knuckle. If you're sticking that straight shot right in somebody's face, they're just getting busted up.
So a lot of and over the past 2 or 3 years, a lot of my training, I've been throwing away hooks. I rather choose, and I think even for MMA, this is better. I started doing it in my MMA fights, is I chose the hard jab over my hook. So I would throw 1-2-1s rather. I just threw hooks away completely because I felt like it was better, not just for bare knuckle, but for MMA. I felt like a lot of guys, when you go 1-2, their natural reaction is the hook's coming, and then I would start landing these shots right up the middle. I'll cut their nose, cut their eye, but also with the one, what would happen is when they were countering to throw the overhand, the one would go king, and I would catch their overhands.
Yeah.
So it was allowing me to be offensive, but also be defensive at the same time. So I kind of threw away hooks and I choose to do a lot of ones after all my combinations. 1-2-3-1, 1-2-1, just always making sure I'm finishing with a hard jab. That way I'm able to be offensive and defensive at the same time.
Yeah, I was saying that Saturday night when I was commentating, Roman Kopylov was pumping a jab out. And I was stating how with a good, hard, fast, solid jab, you can really bust people's faces up, smash their nose and break their teeth in, stop them from breathing, knock them down, do a lot of damage with the jab. You mentioned they put a ring in your place. It seems like the bare knuckle BKFC really take care of you guys. And from what I hear, and I don't expect any numbers, but apparently you guys are getting taken care of financially very well as well.
Well, I'm at a weird spot, Mike, where I just don't compete unless I'm getting taken care of.
Rightly so.
I just won't fight, man. I've been blessed with fighting. I've assigned some really good contracts, and I was able to win some world titles, and if you see me fighting, I'm making a lot of money because I just won't fight. I have a lot of great things in my life where I can make money, but I love to compete. I really do think at this point, competing is the best thing for me, and I'm slowly weaning myself off of this character of a fighter, and I've been doing that for years now, but. As long as there's a couple good fights out there and I could put in a good, energetic, fun camp for myself, I'll do it, But, very well. Bare knuckle. It's like I said, it's not one of them things like if I go to fight, I'm getting paid. If I'm in a promotion, they're paying.
Yeah.
Or else I'm not there.
And along the lines of you talking about kind of slowing it down and only doing it when it really means something to you and you can get a camp together. I got to ask, when you switched over to start doing some of this bare knuckle stuff, Eddie, you're a family guy. You talked about the best dad mug being the best trophy that you had up there for a while. What does the family think? What does the wife think of it versus the stress of an MMA situation versus the stress of bare knuckle? Even though you talk about the camps being a lot easier physically on you, it does seem more extreme, even if it really isn't once you're in there and you've been in there a couple times. But what was it like on the family when you were like, all right, babe, I'm going to go do some bare knuckle now?
Yeah, it's not good, right? Because we've been talking about the idea of retirement for the last 5 years, when it's going to come, what's going to happen. And you would think if that's what you're doing, you're going to wean yourself off to something slightly less dangerous. But I'm headed to knife fight soon. I don't know where I go from here. The sky's the limit. You're
going to be on Squid Game soon. You're going to be doing Squid Game soon.
But you go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say, I mean, obviously I'm not directing this towards your wife because I've never met her or anything, but my wife was the same way. When are you going to retire? When are you going to retire? It's like, babe, I make a lot of money doing this, right?
I'm getting paid.
This lifestyle that we have has been built with these two hands.
Yeah.
And when I retire, do you know what I mean? They stop coming in.
Yeah. We all need to get ready for a significant change, since I was 20 something though, so I've read a bunch of books on finance and real estate, and I help a lot of other fighters, but I was always afraid to be poor at the end of this. So very early, right around 23, I started a real estate company. I started buying rental properties. I have Airbnbs, I have bar restaurants, commercial properties. Wow. So with all my fight checks since I was very young, I'm not a big car guy, jewelry guy, anything like that. I just started buying bricks and real estate and investments. And luckily, I was able to kind of do that over the years because I never thought this was going to work out. I'm going to be honest. I thought almost every fight. Like, hey, this will probably be your last one. Don't f up the money. This will probably be your last one. Don't f up the money. So it just, like, I mean, it lasted a lot longer than what I thought it would, but I never relied on it to be like a real career.
It's interesting hearing that, because I did the same thing. But a lot of fighters, you know what they're like. They get a little bit of money in the pocket, and like a lot of athletes in general, they think it's going to last forever, and then the check stop coming in. They bought a bloody stupid Porsche or whatever fancy car it is, and then they're broke. It's like, guys, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So you're an example to a lot of fighters out there, Eddie. I would ask you for your prediction, but I know you're just going to say you're going to knock him out. But what are we saying? Round 1, round 2?
Look, Jeremy's tough, man. I didn't put anything past Jeremy, and I don't know what one I'm gonna get. I don't know what guy I'm gonna get. A motivated one. I watched his fight with Jose Aldo, his boxing fight. It was really good. If he comes in prepared like that, I mean that's one of his better performances I've seen. Straight striking. So it could be anything, but and this is nothing personal to Jeremy. The way I've been preparing for this fight, I mean, I cut out anything that I thought wouldn't serve me for the last 3-4 months. The focus I've had, the training partners I brought in, I don't think there's going to be a man that comes through the tunnel at the Wells Fargo on the 25th that's going to be able to fuck with me. I sincerely feel that way, and it's nothing against Jeremy. It's just if Jeremy drops out and they bring another guy, I feel just as bad for that guy. I've been preparing in a way I'm just excited about going out and doing what I've already been doing for the last 2-3 months.
And how awesome is it, Eddie, to be back home for one of these things, to be main event of a card at Wells Fargo in Philly? I mean, that's got to be. When's the last time you fought that big in your hometown?
Once ever. So Bellator
years ago, right?
Bought Roger Huerta to the Leah Chorus 14 years ago. And we sold out the Leah Chorus. There was like 1,000 orange shirts, and I stopped Roger in a second. And there's probably a good chance I'll probably do the same thing that Jeremy. I'll feel the energy of Philadelphia, and it's all going to go to Jeremy. It'll all get directed to Jeremy.
Can I help you, Harrington?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask. I have a very Philadelphia-specific question for Eddie Alvarez.
I don't know if you know this. We're in the middle of an award-winning interview here, but sure, just butt in. Feel free.
I was going to ask, how does this compare to fighting behind the White Castle at Erie and Torresdale across from North Catholic?
No, wait. I know I got some North Catholic stuff up here somewhere. Here we go. Hold on.
What does that mean, Harrington? What are you talking about?
So my buddy Danny Weeks, a North Castle alum, he said, that was the biggest thing to do. Was be after school, you would go and see Eddie fight in the White Castle across the street.
Is that a wrestling thing?
No way.
What your bare knuckle record was in behind the White Castle?
It wasn't, dude. We never scheduled fights. They weren't it wasn't like, hey, we schedule a fight. It was like, Philadelphia is very like what Mike does. Mike fucks with people, and then they fuck with him back, and then you guys are fighting. So Philly's very much like that. Like if you go out and maybe you're not looking for trouble, or maybe you're not running from it, for sure you're going to get into it. So as a young kid, I didn't start fights, but for sure if one happened, I was really excited about it.
Yeah. I think most of us will probably agree with that as well. Yeah. What year is that, Eddie, that Harrington's talking about there?
So I was in high school from 99 to 2001.
Right.
And 99 to 2001.
The Underground King. It's going to make a good book one day.
Was born. Yeah, dude. I think it'd be really cool, huh?
Yeah.
A book. Little Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. We've all got to do it.
Dude, and you know what? I grew up in Kensington. Rocky was filmed where I was born. So, growing up, where Rocky was filmed was my streets. There's boxing gyms on every corner. It's like, if I had to describe it, it's kind of like the way Dagestan is the wrestling. Kensington was the boxing in the 90s. There was boxing gyms everywhere. So, it was like, that was our culture, you know?
And Kensington, that's where it's totally messed up now, right? That's like, I see videos on YouTube, everyone's cracked out and on bloody fentanyl and stuff. That's Kensington, right?
That's Kensington, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's rough.
Yeah,
rough.
Paul. Yeah, I think actually Paul's old gym. They used to have to go underneath the L to get to their old gym, and because I went back down there to train with them. I'm like, why the you guys here?
Yeah, because next
Dude,
door to
I
us
did
was Boot.
everything to get out of there, and these guys
Yeah.
are like moving in.
Bro, I every time I had to go down there, I'm like, why did he pick this spot of all places? But they had the boxing gym. It's not there anymore, but Boots and Bozy and all those guys. I don't know if you remember. Remember, you went across the hall next to the gym, and they had a boxing gym right next to. We had MMA in our spot in the basement gym right there in North Philly, and then right across the way was a boxing gym. And sometimes we'd go in there. And I'm telling you, man, even when those guys were taking it easy on you, like if you're boxing in that part of town,
it's the best work, right?
You're getting
you got to go to the worst. You got to go to the worst areas to get the best work. That's normally how it is, and I'm guessing in any part of the world it's probably that way. You're going to get your best rounds in the worst areas.
Yeah.
It's as a guy that grew up in the northwest of England, as a guy that grew up loving Rocky, hearing you two sitting there talking about the mean streets of Philly and the boxing gym and stuff like that, it sounds very, very cool. Like I went to some shitty little gym in the hills and stuff, you know. You guys are on the mean streets, you know. Sounds awesome. Eddie, best of luck this weekend. I got a couple more questions for you. We got to talk about the UFC Lightweight Championship if you've still got time. But where do people watch this fight this weekend? How did they buy the pay-per-view? All that stuff.
It'll be streamed on DAZN. It's at the Wells Fargo Center. So if you are in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Delaware, if you're nearby, please make it. I mean, I've been in Singapore before this, so like I rarely ever get a chance. So if you ever want to get a chance to watch me fight again, please come to the fight. You definitely won't be disappointed. It's at the Wells Fargo. It's January 25th. Me and Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy don't put on boring fights, and neither do I. So please try to make it. If not, you can get it on DAZN.
Are you going, Paul?
I think I'm trying.
Sorry
to
put you on the spot.
No. I've been talking about it for a while, and I hit up Cafaro too, and I think he's going to be there with you as well, isn't he? Or is he just helping you get ready?
Ryan's going to corner. No, Ryan's going to help corner. Him, Mark Henry, and Ray Robinson will be in my corner.
Oh, nice.
Right. Islam Makhachev, UFC 311, Arman Sarukian. What do you make of the lightweight division these days? Obviously, you were the champ. What do you think of the state of the division? And then what about this fight this weekend?
The state of the division's been great. I mean, Islam's pretty much reigning champ. He's amongst the group. We have a lot of guys who like to strike, right? You got the guys on top anyway. Mike Chandler's a great grappler, but he likes to strike. And then you got Gaethje, and then you got Poirier. Even Charles, he has great jiu-jitsu, but he likes to strike. So it just seems like a lot of divisions, the most dominant wrestler, the guy who has the distinct grappling advantages, running the division right now. And I think as far as opponents, the best guy to put in front of him to give him the most trouble, to stop that takedown and maybe take him into a little bit deeper waters, it is Arman right now. So I love the matchup. I hope it turns into a fight the way the Dustin Poirier one did. I think a lot of people, including myself, didn't think Poirier would be able to drag it that far and make Islam breathe heavy and really start turning it into a fight. And I would like to see that happen with Arman, where Arman can kind of gut at them brands and maybe we could see a fourth round.
Yeah, I mean, Arman fought him. I don't know if you saw it years ago. His debut was against Islam on short notice, and he gave him trouble back then. Now, granted, he lost. It was a clear decision for Islam, but the way he was able to scramble, and he's only getting better. What do you think the approach for a guy like Arman is, though? He's a great wrestler, but obviously who do you think has the striking edge if you had to pick one, Eddie? Because I feel like Islam kind of gets discredited for his striking. He's not a bad kickboxer at all.
I think when people are gauging striking, they disregard the amount of wrestling that goes on, right? You know, if you wrestle for 5 minutes or 6 minutes, your striking significantly diminishes.
Yeah.
Your shoulders go down, your legs go. You can't do the both. You have to have a really good balance when you decide to put that game plan. So it's going to be I honestly think we're going to end up seeing a striking fight. I think both guys, because it's a title fight, they're going to be nervous about, am I going to have energy? Am I going to have energy for the 5th round? And how do I sustain my energy all the way up until that? Well, the answer would be, well, less grappling. I'm not going to wrestle a strong grappler. I'm not going to be able to keep up with that pace. So I'm going to strike. And that happens a lot with two real strong grapplers. They cancel that out. We end up having an average striking fight. But I think with these two guys, if they're only striking and no wrestling exists, I think the striking is going to look pretty sharp. I really do. Yeah. I think it's going to look good.
That's a beautiful answer, Eddie, but you still never gave us a winner.
So it's honestly really hard for me to bet against Khabib and his crew.
Yeah.
I think regardless of technique, they have a belief and a faith and a hope that I don't, it's hard to bet against it. You know what I mean? The way they compete and what they compete for, I'd say Islam because of that. But I think earlier, a couple months back, people asked me if they rematched, I'd take Armin. And I just think it's going to be a really close fight. But if I had to like gun to my head and all my money was on it, I'm going Islam just based on Khabib and their crew.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's hard to just bet against them. The momentum that they have.
I don't believe it should be a minus 400 though. I think that's crazy. This should be.
You see, Marab is plus 280 or something like that as the champ going against Umar in the co-main. Marab Dawasuli is.
That's the same thing. That's the same thing. That's going to go to a decision.
That's a good bet.
That's going to be two men. The wrestling's going to cancel each other out, and then it's going to play out on the feet more than likely. Same thing.
Yeah. And if it does, though, that's. Go ahead, Eddie.
I just think they're live dogs. I think you're right. I think Marab's a live dog, and I think Armin's a live dog. Whether they come through, so it could be one of them nights of upsets. But the odds to me are off. They're clearly off.
Yeah,
they always are. Eddie, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, buddy. I enjoyed talking to you. Congrats on all your career. 21 years at the highest level. That's unbelievable. This weekend, Wells Fargo Center. Catch it live on DAZN. Get yourself to the arena if you're in the area.
Next week,
Paul
right?
Felder's. Oh, next week. Yeah. Oh, sorry. 25th. What am I saying? The 25th. Harrington, did you have a question for Eddie? Or is that the one you already asked?
Yeah, that was it. I only have the one thing. Just wanted to jump in there with that. Sorry.
Yeah, I was giving you an opportunity to ask Eddie for a couple of tickets.
Unfortunately,
if you're coming, let me know. Just text me.
This is so painful. My wife booked us flights to Austin for that weekend, and I hate her for it.
Hold on.
I guess a massive fight in our
I was
house
just going to say we could go together, Harrington. Way to go, bud.
I'm so mad.
So we have a guest on the show. He offers you tickets, and to his face, you won't even tell a white lie and say, "I can't." Okay, thanks. I'll see you there.
I'll fly back. Screw it.
Eddie doesn't give a fuck
on Saturday for it.
You got to get your parties together, man.
Yeah,
you're right. I do.
Eddie, you're the man. Thank you very much. Congrats on everything. Good luck against Jeremy Stephens next week, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you, guys. Love watching you both fight. Even better. Thank you, guys.
Oh, dude. I'll have to come by your gym, dude. I'll have to come by and watch some training, hang out with you guys.
Please, Paul, come show these guys. Show these young bucks a couple things, man. Please.
All right, this episode is sponsored by Magic Spoon, and Magic Spoon is here if you want to have a bit of cereal and not feel bad. You've probably seen all the Instagram videos and everyone's talking about cereal. It's so bad for you. And yeah, traditional cereal, probably not the best snack or the best thing to have for breakfast or start your day on. But let's be honest, as kids, I loved eating cereal. As an adult, I don't want all the sugar, and most cereals don't give me the protein that I need either. But then I found Magic Spoon, a nostalgically delicious cereal that tastes just like my childhood favorite, but without the sugar and a load of protein. Magic Spoon has turned their super popular cereal into high protein treats also that are light, crispy, and that taste like classic crunchy cereal bars. Magic Spoon's treats are so delicious and have already become my favorite snack before or after the gym. Now listen to this. Every serving of Magic Spoon high protein cereal has crazy macros: 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and just 4 grams of net carbs. And they come in many nostalgic flavors like cocoa and cinnamon roll. By the way, the treats that I mentioned, Magic Spoon's high-protein treats are crispy, crunchy, airy, and an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. They come in nice flavors like marshmallow, chocolate, peanut butter, and dark chocolate. And right now, you can get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/BYM. Let me tell you, this is delicious. Sounds too good to be true. You will love it. magicspoon.com/BYM. Get $5 off, or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That is magicspoon.com/believe for $5 off. So there he is, the Underground King.
Yeah, it's great to see Eddie, getting to go back home and have a fight, man. A main event, even though it's not UFC or anything, that bare knuckle is growing immensely right now. And he has not fought, like he talked about, in Philly for 14 years. So to get a main event opportunity like that, especially right now, I mean, the city's hot right now with the Eagles winning the playoff game the other night. So I'm happy for him, man. I'm also happy that he is set up. Like, Eddie's not a dummy, like he talked about. He was smart from an early age and investing stuff and taking care of stuff, opened up a brand new gym. One of my buddies, Ryan, is working with him right now, and I train with him all the time. So I got to go check that gym out. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I saw it online. I saw it on Instagram. It looks big. I should have asked the name and let him do a little plug and whatnot. But yeah, no, it looks great. The gym business is a tough business, though, as we know. But sounds like he's doing very well. Property and stuff like that.
And I think he will. I think the gym will do well just because Eddie's such a legend in the area, right? And he's got so much experience. He's going to have the best coaches around to pop in. You know, he's going to be doing a ton of seminars with other fighters and things like that to come through and get people interested. And he's just a good guy. Like, we just talked to him. He's personable. He's funny. He's a family guy. So I think the gym's going to do really well. Years ago, he had a like MMA shop in Philly, the Red Corner it was called. And those things just don't do well. Nobody goes into a shop anymore and buys gear, right? You can go online and buy stuff. So that didn't last. So I hope this ends up being a big success for him.
Well, it's a fighting city, isn't it? And if you got somebody like Eddie Alvarez there, I mean, come on. Harrison, jump on, buddy, because I did appreciate your question about him getting having all the street fights.
Oh man, yeah, that made me happy. I've been saying for years I would love to talk to Eddie on the show, and it didn't disappoint, man. Like, that dude is very on brand for BYM.
I felt kind of weird. I thought I've got to bring up the Conor McGregor thing because that was by far, it's one of the biggest fights in UFC history. It was the biggest moment for him. It didn't go well, of course. I'm sure he got financially compensated, really well. But I did want to ask him about it. But I did feel a little weird bringing it up.
Well, dude, it was a good question too, because it's such a different animal than any other fight you're ever going to have ever. I mean, if we ever talk to Cowboy, it's the same thing. Once you get that fight with Conor, it's not just about the fight anymore. It's about all the other stuff that's going to go along with it. And I don't know if Eddie was overwhelmed by it, but I was watching that fight against McGregor with Eddie at Xfinity Live right by the stadiums. And I would say 75% of the crowd was rooting for
Conor
McGregor. And I remember being so pissed off that this crowd is getting behind this guy. Now, no problem. I was a McGregor fan before he was in our division and all that kind of stuff. But it's our Philly. This is our guy. And people were rooting for him. I mean, I almost got into a couple fights in the bar that night. And
in fact, this is a perfect kind of segue to one of our topics, but I had the similar thing. I was the King's Arms in Clitheroe. I was watching Lennox Lewis, and I think, was it Hazeem Rahman? And everyone was cheering for Hazeem Rahman. And I was like, what are you doing?
What are you guys doing?
He's English. Yeah, he's representing us on the world stage in boxing, in heavyweight boxing, in a world title fight. And you're cheering on the American, you jealous, hating bastards.
It's like all the guys that I see wearing Dallas Cowboys jerseys that are from Philly or this area. It's like you got into them in the 90s when they were winning all the Super Bowls when you're a kid, and you're just a front-running loser.
The segue there that I was going to talk about was about boxing. I don't know much about football. I wish I could jump in. Harrington, maybe you guys.
Hey, here's the funny thing, Michael. Neither do I, honestly. Neither do I, really. It's just that my team's winning. You know what I mean?
You're going to do a podcast together talking football and breaking it all down and all that good stuff. But, Harrington, get out of here. Go on. No, you're fine. You can come back anytime. Tyson Fury. Do we have a video of that, Brian? Maybe we do. Tyson Fury.
Dick who? What's he say here? We'll hear it in a second.
He's talking about Dick Turpin. So
Dick Turpin.
Here we go.
Hi everybody, I'm going to make this short and sweet. I'd like to announce my retirement from boxing. It's been a blast. I've loved every single minute of it, and I'm going to end with this. Dick Turpin wore a mask. God bless everybody. See you on the other side. Get up!
Well, listen, first off, he seems like he's in high spirits. Dick Turpin, we were texting as I was weighing up whether or not to have my penis injected. Dick Turpin was a very famous, maybe Brian can Google it, I'm probably going to get it wrong, like a highway.
He's like a robber, right?
Yeah, he was a robber that would wear a mask and like, kind of like a Robin Hood, but he wasn't that, he wasn't really like Robin Hood, but he would rob from people. So I think, in fact, you cracked the code. I can't take credit for it. What is he talking about, Paul?
So I did have to do some research to crack this code, but me and Christine were actually looking it up right before we came on the podcast to figure out who the hell Dick Turpin is and why that reference made any sense. He's saying that the judges just were blatantly robbing him, right? They didn't even wear a mask. At least Dick Turpin, he wore a mask and robbed people. The judges were just outright right there in your face robbing him. I imagine that's what he's talking about. Yeah, look at that sweet mask.
Old Dick Turpin, let's go. This should
bandana.
What we used to do, we used to have the names of the episode used to be from something that we mentioned in the show. Maybe we'll go back to that. BYM, Dick Turpin special, or I don't know. Anyway,
I'm getting my Dick Turpin injected in bioaccelerator.
I'm getting my Dick Turpin. Oh, that's a good one. I think we will start doing that. So we don't need to talk about whether or not it was a robbery or anything like that. We had that conversation. But you know what? Fair play to Tyson Fury. Now, maybe as some time passes, maybe he feels differently and wants to come back. You know how fighters do. But he's probably made, I don't know, if I'm to guess off the top of my head, 200, maybe more $1 million, right? He was the champion of the world a few times. He's still a relatively young man. I think he's like 35, 36. Get in, like McGregor said it best. Get in, make a stack of cash, and get out, or whatever the verbiage was that he used. Fair play to that man, and congrats on everything.
Yeah, I have a sneaky feeling that it's not the end for him. He seems like that kind of guy where he's going to come out and say some crazy things, and we'll see him back. And
so do I.
But yeah, if not, you don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to prove anything. You got all the money. And dude, this is a guy, we've talked about it, where we don't come from much. I know for sure Tyson don't come from much. So the fact that he's making hundreds of millions of dollars, he's sitting pretty.
According to the internet, $152 million career.
There you go. You're close,
so which is
Michael.
about 110 million pounds. All right, granted, there's a lot of tax to pay, but still, he can afford to pay it. Simple as that. And yeah, talking about where he comes from. So he's from Morecambe, which is a town pretty close to where I am. Obviously, he's from a gypsy family as well. So yeah, certainly not a silver spoon born in his mouth when he was born. So fair play. I think he'll be back. I think he'll end up fighting Anthony Joshua down the line, because that fight probably still needs to happen. Maybe the hunger for it in the UK isn't quite what it was, because they've both been beaten. But regardless, either way, congratulations. What should we talk about? Should we do a non-MMA before we get into UFC 311?
Yeah, we had a few we can talk about on the list of things we were looking at.
You guys want to talk about?
Go on.
You guys want to talk about how LA is burning just conveniently right before we find out all the kitty diddlers on the Magic Island?
I know, man. I was thinking that too. Like,
I'm just saying.
What do you mean, kitty diddlers on the Magic Island?
Well, go ahead, Brian.
People in this new administration are pushing for this Epstein list to be released, and just conveniently, days before those people get into power, the whole neighborhood burns down to the ground. It's just convenient, is all.
But hold on. So I'm missing some pieces, and granted, and so will a lot of people listening. So you're talking about Epstein Island. You're talking about some people, some left-wing politicians, I assume.
No, Hollywood.
Hollywood. But what does the houses burning down have anything to do with the list?
I'm not saying that this is the case, but there's a greater than 0% chance that this is the case. That, if I had evidence of me being a weird baby eater, in my house and in this whole neighborhood, hey man, it might just be easier to burn down the whole shit and be like, oh, we lost our guns in the boat kind of deal, Yeah.
All right. So,
it's fun. I'm not saying that's the case, but this was an arson job.
Well,
there was lots of arson going on in California.
Yeah, well, so I don't think anyone's eating babies either. Sorry, all you people out there. Come at me in the comment section. I don't think people are eating babies.
They're using that blood to getting that adrenochrome.
That's what I mean when I say babies.
Why do they look so young? So young?
God, because they've been down to Bioaccelerator and had their dick stand.
My tinfoil hat on here, man.
Right. So look, listen. Never mind all that, what Brian said. There's some shady shit going on. There's something going on. And I want to be really careful with my words because I live in Orange County. I was there. The winds were going crazy. There was no fires near our house, fortunately. Very kindly. So many people sent me messages and stuff. We were totally fine. We have been evacuated before years ago, but on this occasion, we were fine. It was nowhere near us. But I do know a lot of people that have lost their actual homes. Their actual homes completely gone. And when you see the devastation, Brian, maybe if there's a video that sums it all up, it's crazy. And the winds were out of control. I'm telling you, the winds were so bad. And they still are today. Apparently, the Palisades fire is still only 11% contained. And Rebecca said earlier, it's windy as hell again. Like
they were saying like gusts up to like 100 miles an hour, I heard, in certain parts. And you're right. Even if, putting conspiracy aside, there are plenty of people, unfortunately, who have nothing to do with any of that, if that was the case, even if it's not, right? People lost a lot, man, a lot. And I feel obviously I feel for anybody that loses their home, but there's a lot of people that lost their homes that have millions upon millions of dollars. There's other people that don't and are affected by this. And it's just unfortunate. I was potentially supposed to go out next week to film for the current season of Hacks, the TV show, and that all got postponed. One of the houses that they've used for one of Deborah Vance's, the character in the show, one of the houses burnt down that they used for a set. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and there's so many others. I mean, the devastation. I hate. It's like. It's like a bloody nuclear bomb has gone off. It's like post-apocalyptic. It's wild. And to your point, what you just said there a second ago, because I see a lot of people online kind of being mean, going, oh, these people are wealthy and they're loaded and screw them, who cares? Number one, just because somebody's successful doesn't mean they're not a good person and you shouldn't have sympathy. Number two, to your point, a lot of because I've seen people as well, like in Altadena where there's a massive fire as well, there's some houses aren't cheap there, but this is California. A lot of those people, they've had it handed down through generations and it's just been burned. And then on top of it, I know this firsthand, our fire insurance was canceled about 6 months ago. Rebecca had to call around so many insurance companies. We got some in the end. We had to pay a nasty premium for it. But so many other people's have had the insurance policy canceled, the fire insurance cancelled a few months before this. It was the driest winter since 1964. Gavin Newsom abolished 4 dams over the last few years, apparently, so the Native Americans can fish salmon again. So they had access to no water. There was no water in the fire hydrants. The whole thing was a shit show. I saw a video of firemen using women's handbags.
Purses,
filling them with water and running to the water because they didn't have fire hoses. They cut $20 million from the budget last year. Apparently, over the last few years, it's a way, way bigger number. The whole thing, I don't know, massively incompetent, potentially very corrupt.
Yeah, it sounds like it was handled like shit, to be completely fair. And if you live out there and you're a part of that, you've got to just be beyond frustrated with that kind of shit. if you're running California, one of the main things that should be constantly worried about is handling those types of wildfires that break out like that. I mean, it happens every single year. It doesn't happen to this extent every year, but you've got to be prepared for these types of things. Even if it is arson, you know how it can spread when it's dry season like that. And it's crazy, man. But shout out to any and all people that were involved in trying to shut that down, because shout out to those firefighters who had to use handbags like that to try to put stuff out, because it just shows you, even when they don't have their hoses and they don't have the hydrants working, those people were trying their absolute best to do what they could with what they had available. So
they had.
It's not them that I'm upset with. It just sucks that, and then it all gets politicized. He's going at Trump. Trump's going at it. It's like, man.
Yeah. But hold on. I'm sorry. That stupid mayor, Karen Bass. You must have seen the video. She was in Ghana. All right, fair enough. She doesn't know a fire is going to break out, even though she did promise she wasn't going to leave the country. She was going to stay in California and in Los Angeles. Regardless, she didn't know a fire was going to break out. So she flies off to Ghana, right? She's coming back because there's a fire. Right. She was interviewed. Did you see this interview? And she just says nothing. She freezes. She has nothing to say. Nothing. She's been on a plane for about 15 hours, probably a private jet, definitely with Wi-Fi.
You could be getting prepped.
Prepare a statement.
Yeah.
Prepare. And I think, and I know nothing about it, but she isn't running it. There's people pulling the strings, and whoever are pulling the strings, I've said to her, just don't say anything. Don't say anything yet. And she's taken that completely literally. She stood there and said nothing, because you would at least ad-lib some sympathy for the people that have lost their home, for people that have worked their entire life. I mean, I saw old age pensioners crying, saying, imagine that you're 65 or even older. You've worked your entire life. You retire, and these are the years you get to kick back and take it easy, relax.
And your house burns down.
And your house burns down. The insurance company aren't going to cover it. And then she doesn't even have the audacity to say anything to the people.
This is a video if you want me to play it.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's have a look and wind myself up even more.
Have you no response to that? Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor?
She's been told, say nothing.
Yeah, man, that's insane. That's insane.
Minutes of that.
Yeah. And then
response.
So when I got picked up Saturday night by the driver for the UFC, took me to the airport. Of course, we're talking about the fires because it's a big thing right now. You know, anyone says, "Oh, where do you live?" I say California. The fires come up. The fires come up. He came up with something, and now I'm starting to see this somewhere else. And maybe Brian, this is very much down your world. LA are building a smart city for the Olympic Games 2028, and all of a sudden, a bunch of land has just become available. Now, I'm not saying that.
We got a Hawaii situation, Brian.
It's very funny how that kind of shit just happens to be happening like a lot around these kind of situations. That's all I'm saying.
Well, so I saw Biden come out and Newsom, and we're not talking politics. We're talking about people losing their homes, saying they're going to cover the aid and all the rest of it. Never mind that. Take the billions and billions and billions of dollars that you pay off to all these other countries constantly. I'm not singling out anywhere, but they do. They pay tons of money. They give, I think it's $50 million a month to ISIS or the Taliban in Afghanistan. Take some of that money, some of these budgets that you send around the world, and rebuild these homes for these people. The government should take care of that.
So it's not money that they're giving. They're giving them military aid at the cost of this much money. It's really just a way to prop up the military industrial complex. It's not like we're giving, we are giving dollars, but when you hear about all this money, billions and billions, they're not sending like pallets of dollars or even
things of worth of that amount of money.
They're sending tanks and missiles and guns. Yeah. So it's just propping up the military industrial complex.
Well, the UK was doing that to the EU. They were paying something like 80 million a month to be a part of the EU or something. But anyway, I don't know that.
The UK's got some crazy stuff going on too, right? I know Elon's been posting all about the rapings and stuff going on, and how that people are being arrested for social media posts and stuff now over there too, Michael.
Yeah. And then politicians from the Labour Party, they're getting busted for paedophilia.
Yeah.
The world is going insane.
Weird how that happens.
Yeah.
Right. No, but do you know what I mean? Scumbags drive me crazy. Please, what the hell is going on? I hate it.
Yeah.
You know,
it needs a cleaning of house all throughout all of it, man. It's just too many scumbags in charge for too long everywhere.
I will say this, and it's kind of a cliched thing. I am very, very impressed with how the local community has come together. But it's true. I'm telling you, you do see that, and like the GoFundMe's, which pisses me off. There should be no need for a GoFundMe, right? California pays the most taxes out of anywhere in the country. It's through the roof. There's lots of successful people there. They've got the money. They should rebuild these houses for them and give it back to them, because it was their incompetence at the very best that caused this to happen. However, there is so many GoFundMe's and people helping out and all this type of stuff. That is great to see. I will say that you Americans are very good at that.
Thanks.
You are.
I saw a pretty cool thing yesterday in that same vein. The Pennsylvania Amish, your folk, Felder, they went down to North Carolina where there was that big hurricane and a bunch of devastation.
Yeah, we stopped talking about all that too. Stop talking about that. We stopped talking about the drones. We stopped talking about the drones in New Jersey. Stopped talking about Carolina.
Yeah, but the drones went away though, right? Or did it just die down?
Who fucking knows?
I never saw one to begin with.
How about the conspiracy of the guy that blew up the car outside of the Trump Tower?
Oh yeah.
But apparently had a bullet hole.
Yeah,
in
I
his
know.
head.
In the car that drives itself. Weird.
And I mean, come on. And he sent all those letters and all those emails to people beforehand, letting them know if something happens to me, they're after me. And I know things that are about these drones, and it's not this. It's basically, he was saying it's Chinese doing that stuff, and they've got this technology now, and it's basically them just saying, hey, we can f you up at any time right now if we need to.
You are correct, Paul, in that all of a sudden,
if that's true, what the?
Yeah, and we've just forgotten all about all of that because something else.
Look at the fires. Look at the fires over here.
Look at this very, very shiny thing over here.
Literally across the other side of the country. Let's look over here.
But you know what? Because of the winds, they couldn't fly helicopters in. It was just, I mean,
it's a mess.
Maybe there was some skullduggery. We don't know, right? But it was just a perfect shitstorm. It really was, because the fires, with the winds, the helicopters couldn't go in. Because I was watching the Sunset Fire, which broke out in Topanga, which is just above where Hollywood is. And it was spreading at a crazy rate. And I was watching it on the news. I was glued to it. There was mass evacuations. All the streets were gridlocked. Jesus, at one point in the Palisades, the fire was catching up to them, and they were all in gridlock traffic. So they got out on foot, and then they ran away down the street. So then they had to get a bulldozer, and I'm telling you,
move the cars. Yes, move all the
cars out the way so that fire brigade can get through. And there were some nice cars got trashed. I mean, it's like whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you own one of that car and you're watching it on TV, going, I just bought that. Oh.
I just paid that off.
I did see some billion-dollar parking lots on the news, though. There was like some parking lots that just had like all these celebrities' cars in them. It's just insane.
Oh, dude, we shouldn't laugh. My heart goes out to anyone and everyone. And of course, there's been a lot of fatalities as well. It's crazy, man. It's awful. Yeah. It's awful.
It's been wild. There's 2025 is off and running, man. It's off and running, and just more chaos. Now this have a smooth year.
Now this is why, Paul, that I have the trophy at home for the Segway Champ. I actually do. 2025 is off and running, and that leads us to the first UFC event, pay-per-view event of the year.
There you go.
UFC
in LA, of all places.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I know, and I was talking to people, and I think the issue is the UFC does have T-Mobile available on Saturday, but as long as that arena says that they still want it to be going on, they're not going to get any insurance money to be able to move it and pay for it. They're going to just be dumped, like just hemorrhaging money from the whole event. So I think they're kind of in a weird spot. Whereas if that arena is still trying to push forward and wants it to go on, the UFC is kind of screwed to not.
So they have to honor the agreement.
Yeah, otherwise they're losing money on it. Big time.
Of course. And the thing is as well, with the fire still going on, as I say, I saw earlier, only 11% contained in the Palisades. There's other ones that have been extinguished, but the big one, 11% contained. Do people want to do that? Have they got the appetite for it? Did they want to go out and celebrate?
That was what I was worried about. I'm like, I'm worried about the fighters being there. I'm worried about the crew and everybody having to go there. But yeah, who's a lot of people bought tickets for that are probably in a position now where it's like, I'm not going to an event.
It's because you want to be respectful as well.
Yeah.
You want to be respectful.
You don't want to be out partying and having fun. Meanwhile, houses are burning down still.
Because for people that don't understand, because I'm sure a lot of people watching this go, oh, shut up. So what? It was a few people lost at home. We're talking an area the size of Miami. Harrington, you put a good comparison.
Something about the size of Boston, right?
It's the size of Boston, just destroyed by fire.
Gone. Yeah.
It's insane. Anyway, whatever. We know Eddie Alvarez is an amazing fighter, but he wouldn't give us a strong pick either way. He did say Islam Makhachev, though. He did say Islam. UFC 311. Should we go through the card? Should we do some picks? What do you think? Harrington, jump on the screen as well. What are the big storylines going into 311? Is there any breaking news, Harrington?
Do we keep track this year?
Of what?
Picks?
Should we do that?
I think we could.
Can you do that?
I obviously I will do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be good at that.
Yeah, I know. And if I do make a pick, it's funny enough, I won again. If I'm keeping track, what's the big storyline UFC 311? Is there any news, Harrington? Other than
so the biggest stories I saw this morning. Obviously the Johnny Walker fight no longer a part of the card, because of injury. And then the other thing I saw, Arman Sarukian was on Kamaru Usman's podcast. He said he has been working on a move that no one has ever seen before, and he thinks it's going to be his key to victory in the Islam Makhachev fight.
Yeah, well, that's all well and good. It's not really a big. I'm not being disrespectful to you before everyone in the comment section gets worked up. Like, that's. He's been working on something. He's got a little something new. It's mixed martial arts. There's many ways to skin a cat. There's lots of moves, flying knees, scissor takedowns. Maybe he's done a spinning back fist routine like Shara Bullet. Maybe he's not going to shoot. Maybe he is going to shoot. Maybe he's going to do a single leg to a high crotch to a double leg. And then he's got this spinning back kick move. Who gives a flying fuck, Harrington?
He's going to pull out a gun.
His special move is he's not going to punch somebody in the crowd as he's walking in.
That would be a good move. That'd be a good way to start the event by not fist fighting the crowd on the way in. And people are going to try to instigate him because they know that he'll retaliate, but hopefully he doesn't.
It is a shame, though, because I hope the event does go ahead there. The last time the UFC was in LA?
I think somebody won a belt there a while back.
Far be it from me to bring up myself. Come on. That is correct. Excuse me, that is correct, Paul. That is correct. It was quite a special night. Any other storylines, Harrington, before we do breakdowns?
No, I'm just looking here a bunch of stuff on Arman's training, people getting real excited. Khabib saying that when his fighters are done, when they've retired, he's retired and he just can't wait for it. But that's less 311 and more, the fighters in 311.
Islam also said that obviously he's assuming that he wins this fight. After this, he wants to go up to 170. As long as Bilal Muhammad isn't the champ, he's not interested in defending against Ilia Topuria. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't blame him. I think for him, if he goes and beats Arman and he's defended the belt the way that he has, I think I'm with Islam. You want to move up. You don't want to be taking on a lighter guy moving up. He's already done that twice. He's already fought Volkanovski 2 times, handled him each time. So I don't blame Islam for not wanting to fight Topuria. I'm one of the biggest Topuria fans out there, but I think he still I was just talking about this the other day. I still do think he needs to put in some time. He's done unreal things early on in his career already, but it's becoming a trend for these young guys. Once they get the belt, they defend it, they do some cool stuff. Everyone wants to jump around in weight classes, and it kind of muddies things up for all the contenders waiting in line to fight. I think Ilya's still got some people to fight, and then he can start talking about moving up to lightweight. And for Islam, he's done that now, right? It's like, all right, you defend it. you defend it again, It's like, well, then maybe you start earning that right to try to become double champ, to try to move up a weight class and take on somebody. He definitely doesn't want to be fighting another featherweight right now. And I don't think it's because he's scared of him.
No, it's nothing like that. He's like, bro, when do I get my shot? I'm sick of giving people a chance.
Yeah, I'm going to give this guy a shot, but I don't get to go and do it. Yeah,
but I don't get that. I've defended the belt 4 times.
Yeah.
I'm a massive superstar. I'm very good at what I do. Do I not get a shot? So, yeah, no, totally get that. So let's have a look. Main card, opening up the main card. Kevin Holland, Renier de Ridder. Did you call de Ridder with me?
I think I was on the desk for it. I was there, though. Yeah, I was there for it.
So de Ridder, for anyone that doesn't know, 2-weight division champion coming from ONE FC, made his UFC debut against Joe Mearchart. It kind of made a meal out of it. It was a back and forth fight for a while. Doesn't have the best striking. Doesn't have, in my humble opinion, with respect, not even the best wrestling. But he does have a crazy ability that once he clinches, of finding a way to get them down. And if he gets on top of you, woof, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and he dug deep, right? I mean, that was a good back and forth fight. He got hurt a couple times. He hurt Gerald a couple times. I think it was a good debut. Like you said, he got to chew on it a little bit. He got to go out there, get experience in the octagon. I think this is a tough fight for him, to be completely honest. I think Gerald was the perfect debut because Gerald is a good striker, but he definitely wants to engage on the grappling. He wants to be on the ground. He wants to be going gritty with you in those scrambles, whereas Kevin Holland, he's going to try to absolutely just piece your face apart from distance. And they're going to be in a big cage and he's going to have that opportunity. So I think the UFC was like, okay, you got through that one. Here you go. We're going to give you a long, lanky, much harder guy to deal with on the feet.
Kevin's faster. He's longer. He probably hits harder than Gerald. He does. He's got knockout power for sure. Black belt at jiu-jitsu, but if he can submit Gerald Mearchart, jump on Harrington and Bryan. Let's get your picks. If he can submit Gerald, then he's probably got the grappling edge over Kevin Holland. And I think we all know that anyway. But Kevin, he's kind of been a bit inconsistent. I'm a massive Kevin Holland fan. He's awesome. I love his energy. I love what he brings to the table. I love the entertainment factor. I love the knockouts. I love the talking during the fights as well. I love it all. But there's been some ups and downs. Not the hardest guy to take down. And that could create some problems for him.
Yeah, but like we talked about, right? It's going to come down to can he close that distance in the bigger cage against a guy that's not going to want to engage as much in the grappling. I think that's where it's going to get tricky for him because I do think if it hits the mat, he's got a good chance. Didn't Gerald sub Kevin Holland?
I don't know. I'm having to go to the memory bank for that one.
But I know Brendan Allen did.
I got my dick stem, so I'm not sure. But
I can't remember, or maybe he lost. I can't remember.
No, he did. He fought Kevin Holland, split decision. Kevin Holland won.
Okay, all right. So he's exactly. So I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be fun if the Ritter can get some takedowns and work Kevin Holland. It'll be a fun fight. But if he stays on the feet with Kevin Holland, I think it's going to be a really bad night for him.
Yes, Brian, this is me doing a Dutch accent, and I just want to know, is because she's from Holland, you know. Brian, who do you have winning this fight?
Kevin Holland has
I feel like that's a pretty good Dutch. I don't know.
That was great. I thought you were from...
That's more Duran to me, but, you know.
Yes.
I thought it was Goldmember.
But Jermaine is from...
That's what it's from.
She's from...
He's Dutch, though, right?
Yes, she's Dutch. She's from Zimbabwe. Smoking a pancake.
Kevin Holland has a knockout off of his back. So I feel like... No, he punched Jacare right in the face.
It was crazy. Punched him out from his back. It was crazy.
I mean, I can't really give this guy any credit for taking people down when Kevin Holland knocking people out off of his back. So I pick Kevin Holland.
All right. I see your logic. It's never going to happen again.
It's never going to happen again. It was wild.
But that was wild. I got to go with my boy, Kevin Holland. I've got to do it. Oh, no, but you're keeping a score now for the 2025.
I got a list right here.
Oh, God, shit. My heart says Holland. No, my heart says Holland. My head says the Dutch Knights goes out there and beats these guys. So Renier de Ridder is the pick, yeah?
You going de Ridder? I'm going Holland.
I'm going de Ridder. Oh, I like Kevin. Harrington, real quick, one more go.
I mean, it's true 50-50 fight. It's looking like minus 110 both sides. I'm going to take Kevin Holland, much more experienced, used to the UFC fights.
All right, you can all throw it in my face on Saturday night, and I'll tell you something right now. I'll
I'll be texting right away.
I'll be happy to be wrong because Kevin Holland's the man. Next
Neither
up,
of you guys are working?
no.
Oh, yeah, so we'll fucking be on.
Yeah, we can rip
try
through
not
everyone.
to bother you when you're on air.
Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Paul, give me your thoughts.
Man, I like Moicano in this one. I just think he's surging right now. He's got all the confidence, and I really was a massive fan of Beneil Dariush, but I think Father Time is catching up to Beneil, and I think Moicano's got more in the tank. I'm going Moicano. Moicano loves money.
He loves it. Herringbone.
I'm going to say for years, Beneil Dariush told us the only thing that was driving him was a title shot. I think that's now in his rearview mirror, and he knows that. Moicano is fighting for money, and there is a chance to make an extra $50K here off the back of Beneil Dariush. I mean, motivation is what it is. I'm going to say money Moicano.
Can I just say something? You go and do something like that and totally redeem yourself. What movie?
Dumb and Dumber.
Come on. Yeah.
Dumber. Yeah, that's a really good point, Harrington. That's a really good point. Brian McKay, B McKay is right on Twitter and Instagram.
Hey, thanks. I agree with these three guys. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a clean sweep. I am also on for money Moicano.
I know.
Taxation is theft.
And so am I. So am I. But when you have, we've had Beneil on the podcast a couple of times. He's just like the nicest guy. So
He's
I feel
the man,
bad.
dude. I love.
I know.
But for the reasons that Harrington and Paul both stated,
Yeah.
that's all legit,
Yeah.
And what he did to Benoit Saint-Denis, that was
man. Coming off that's why I'm like, I don't. And Beneil's coming off some bit bad losses.
Next one, Jamal Hill, Yuri Prochazka. We got the Samurai versus the Slugger. Paul Felder, give me your thoughts.
I just saw Jamal Hill on Saturday. I talked to him.
So did I.
He looks lean. He looks like he's in pretty good shape. I think he's going to get it done. I think he's going to get it done. I know, and I felt so bad even talking to him. I was like, we just had Yuri on. We can't have him. If we have him back on again, I'm muting myself and getting off camera if we have Yuri back on after a win.
Get Jamal on the show. I want to get Jamal on.
I'll text Butler. We'll get Jamal on. He'll shoot the shit with us.
No, I know. We've had him on many, many times. That was before he just went on a tirade of abuse at me on Twitter. But whatever. He seemed
in a good mood on Saturday. So if he gets a win, I think we have no problem talking to him.
I have no issue. Get him on here. And I said, bro, watch your mouth. Do you know what I mean? I'll meet your head on, buddy. I'll give as good as I get.
So you can go that with him. I'm way too undersized. If he was mad at me, I'd be like, what am I going to do, bud?
I'm also old and retired. I'm also getting my dick stabbed. No, you're fine. I don't want to fight anybody. I gotta go the other way. I've got to go with Yuri Prochazka. I do see I see a path to victory for Jamal Hill. I see him having big power in his hands. I see the opening of the chin being wide open, a big glaring target from Yuri Prochazka. I see all of this, but I also believe in the samurai spirit and the obsession that he has and the power that he has and the maniac that he has. And I mean that in the best way. And I just love everything about that crazy Czechoslovakian. I could not be a bigger fan. And I love that he's a traditional martial artist. And I think with the more ways to win, and I think he'll engage with Jamal. I think he'll back him up. He'll get in his face. And I think he gets a win. I think this will be fight of the night, though.
I mean, that's
for as long as it lasts.
Yeah. There's going to be fireworks for sure. I'm a little torn on this one. I think the biggest thing sticking out in my mind is like Yuri talked about going down to 185. You know what I mean? And it's like the Jamal Hill seems singularly focused on where he's at 205. I think he's going to be the bigger guy in there. I think Yuri, despite his size and being as intimidating as him, I think he seems a little undersized for 205, and maybe that's just my mind playing tricks on me when he says he's thinking about going down to 185. But I think someone like Jamal Hill in the early rounds is going to be a lot for Yuri to deal with. If Yuri can get takedowns early and mess with Jamal's rhythm, I think Jamal would have a real tough time with him on the ground. But I think if Jamal keeps it standing for those first couple of rounds, too much damage.
I agree with you guys on Jiri's hittable, but we also saw him try to continue a fight knocked out cold when he was fighting Alex Pereira. So I'm not sure that Jamal Hill can stop him. And he does all that spinning ninja shit too.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And we like to play a game. We got to come up with a decent forfeit sometimes. We've done some forfeits on the show. We need to bring these back. Let us know in the comment section, ladies and gentlemen. This is an interactive show. It is your show as much as it is ours, even though I can't speak. Give us some ideas for some forfeits for when Paul Felder gets some shit wrong. Merab Dvalishvili, Umar Nurmagomedov. I'll say it real quick. I think the pair of them cancel each other's wrestling out. I just can't allow myself to see Merab getting controlled on the ground, right? Like Umar's going to try. He couldn't do it necessarily to Corey Sandhagen. He got lots of takedowns, but he didn't get a lot of control time. If Corey can get up, I don't see why Merab can't. I think the fight ends up playing out on the feet. I'm leaning Umar, but I'm going to say Merab.
Well, then I'm going to go the opposite of that. And I'm going to say that if it does end up in that situation that you're talking about and they're nullified in the grappling, I think Umar is the better striker.
I know.
I'm going Umar.
He's got better striking.
Yeah,
he's got cleaner striking.
But if you're betting, I think you absolutely have to bet Merab at plus 280.
Let's be honest here. My picks are definitely swayed by the fact that Merab is open to jumping on the show anytime. Umar has let me down twice. I'm like, I got to go with my guy.
I got to start thinking about that.
Yeah, no. If I'm being honest, Umar. I think Umar beats him on the feet. Boys?
Yeah.
I think we're in evil empire territory. You know what I mean? Like we're in that like Empire Strikes Back, where it's just going to be Russians across the board in pretty much every weight class for the next couple of years until
not
we get
just Russians, but that's a good last name to have.
Yeah. I mean, specifically Khabib's camp. I mean, he talked about it recently, like that idea of like Conor McGregor said, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over. We're actually taking over. This is step number 2. Or step number 3.
We're actually here and we're actually taking over.
How have we not discussed Khabib getting thrown off a goddamn plane?
Oh, we forgot about that. That was in there. Yeah.
I asked Harrington specifically, any UFC 311 news? You know what I mean?
I didn't know this.
Habib is in the corner. He's flying out here for Islam. The's a path to that.
You're right.
Yeah, that was
Jesus
BS,
Christ.
That was BS. He got screwed there.
I have the video if we want to do that after this next fight.
Yeah. Should we finish the fights and then we'll shit on Frontier Airlines? Yeah, we might as well. All right, main event. Islam versus Arman Sarukian. We've talked about it a lot. It's a rematch, 6 years in the making. Islam's better. Arman's improved. He's gone into his body. He's a man now. He wants it. He's been obsessed with this for 6 years. But it's Islam Makhachev, and I think the guy's there for a reason. And yes, Arman pushed him last time, and yes, he's improved, but so has Islam. And as good as Arman is, and I think he might be the slickest striker on the feet, hold on, you got to remember, Islam did get slept one time against Adriano Martins. Yeah. So anything's possible. But with all that said, I still think Islam Makhachev wins via decision.
After what Islam did to Volk, I'm going to bet on him until he loses.
Yeah. Harrington, I'll go last.
I'm really trying to come up with any kind of devil's avocado for Arman Sarukian here, and it just I can't do it. I mean, I think Islam is the champion at 155 until he decides I want to go try for a belt in another weight class.
You don't need to. Paul's going to go full Arman. I can tell it.
I'm going to go. I'm going to do
going
it.
in.
I'm going to
go.
He's
doing it.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it, guys.
You never go full Arman.
And I'll do it live. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with it just because I love doing that. Because now when I'm watching it on Saturday, I'm going to be like, oh, man, if I get this one, I'm going to be coming on show next week just raising the roof, just going nuts. My mind is obviously with Islam, but my pick is going to go with Arman Sarukian.
Yeah.
Just cause.
Hey, and it's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick, you know.
It would be epic.
Like
it would be epic.
Yeah. We've got some other things to talk about, but this is a great episode of the Believe You Me podcast. If you haven't subscribed and rung the bell, then what are you doing for? Some of the best guests, some of the best crack, some of the best banter, and we're cluing you in on everything going on in the world. You know, we will make you a more intelligent person. Isn't that right, Paul?
That's 100% a fact, Michael. They now know that you can get stem cells into your Johnson.
Oh, yeah. You can get your dick stemmed. Do you have a prelim pick? I'm going to say Peyton Talbot versus Rani Barcelos. It's one to watch out for, but you probably haven't got the fight card up in front of you, have you?
No, I'm on my way right now.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Prelims?
So
prelim pick?
I got a fun one. This guy who Cedric Dumas, he was supposed to fight Zach Reese. Zach Reese is now out. They're calling up the LFA champion at the weight class, on 4 days' notice, and he is now like a minus 240 favorite. So I'm super excited for that. Getting a call up on short notice, getting a spot on a pay-per-view, it's pretty cool.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could end up being a boring grappling fight, but it could be pretty crazy. Grant Dawson taking on Diego Fajeda, who's been back to form recently. That could be an interesting fight because Diego has a way of just taking some of these guys who are on their way up and shutting them down. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now.
Yeah, and he's been around forever. He's fought everybody. He's got tremendous experience. Grant Dawson on the flip side, he's doing incredible things.
He will, and Diego will be 40 by the time this fight happens too. It looks like his birthday is coming up in 3 days.
So he's getting on, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it'll be 40. So maybe don't pick that fight.
Put your money on Grant Dawson. I'm joking, Carlos. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. It's a good fight though. Good choice. Good pick. All right. Khabib Nurmagomedov. We have the video. We're going to talk about it. Javier Mendez, his coach, is calling it out. Said this was racism. This was, discrimination, whatever you want to call it. Let's watch it. This is number one bullshit.
I mean, shout out to Khabib for handling it the way he did. He didn't start cursing. He didn't lose his mind. He didn't flip out. And I do think I'm not one of those guys that is quick to jump to the conclusion that it is a bit racist or profiling them for that. But in this case, once he knew what was going on, he had said yes to the instructions. And I'm sorry. That's who I want in that exit row by that door if something goes wrong and people need help. I want Khabib and his athletic teammates to be helping people out of there, not some 300-pound person sitting in that exit row. So
you're a bastard because you took my point because I was talking about it whilst I was getting my dick stemmed earlier. And I was like, you want the greatest lightweight fighter the sport has ever seen in the exit row. Okay. Yeah. That's who you want. You don't want some bloody, half drunk. Yeah, by the way, he's sober all the time. He's not going to be getting drunk. All the time. He's very cool, calm, and collected. Shout out to him for keeping his cool. And eventually, when he realized the situation, got up, calmly walked off.
There is a little more detail to this.
Go ahead.
It turns out that he was sitting in emergency row, and when the stewardess asked him if he would be able to help in a case of an emergency as his procedure, he didn't understand. So they wanted to move him to a different seat, and then he was like, no, this is my seat. And then there was they got into it from that. So That's why he got escorted off the plane, because they wanted to move him with somebody else who they thought would be more apt to help, and then he didn't want to move.
He did say, though, that earlier when he first checked in, they said, this is an exit row. You're prepared to do this. He said, yes, of course. So it could have been a thing where it's like, stop asking me 100 times. I've already said, yes, I'm down to do this.
Okay. So now I'm maybe seeing another side because of what Brian just said. Maybe in their mind, they're like, well, hold on a minute. There's definitely a language barrier here. If, God forbid, there is an emergency, we can't have a language barrier when we're trying to give you instructions to help. Just plain devil's avocado.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
of
point
course.
that they made in the statement.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I like to shit on the airlines, though. I like to shit on them. So I'm sorry.
And Michael,
Prejudice.
you know as well as I do, and we don't know if this is the case. We weren't there. This is all just hypothetical. But some of these people on those airlines get a bit of an ego trip, the fact that they have this power over you, right? Yeah. So I think there was a little bit of that. I think maybe he didn't give them the right answer right away. And then when he got, and I also heard that then a lady potentially like translated it better for him and told him exactly what it was that they were asking. And then he said yes. And they can be assholes.
I will go as far to say this, that I, for the most part, hate airline staff. I hate them. But then when I do find one that does their job well, does it with a smile on their face, gives me good service, treats me like a human being, I always go out of my way to say, do you know what? You are a credit to this airline, because I want to say, and maybe I'm off the mark, I'd say 70% of them begrudge assisting you, serving you in any way, shape, or form. They're nasty. They don't want to be there. You know, it used to be back in the day. We were customers. We're paying a shit ton of money for this service, and you're speaking down to us. You know, the amount of times I've had them shout at me, scream at me, speak to me like I'm a child. You know, and I told this story a while ago, but it's coming up again. I was boarding a flight, Southwest Airlines, and you know it's boarding group A, B, or C, or 1, 2, 3, whichever one it is. I tried to board; it was the wrong group. I was group B. I wasn't group A. Right, but the thing wasn't turned around properly. So I made a mistake. And when I approached the thing, the guy's like, sir, this is boarding group A. You are boarding group B. Step away. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry, my bad. I thought it was my time to board. So I stood there with some guy, right? And he was like, you know, he was a bit of a hard on. And we just like kind of giggling to ourselves. And then when I walked up next time, he had some sunglasses on his head. And I said, hey, I like those sunglasses. I like the way they're just balanced on your head like that. You look really cool. and he said, step aside. Step aside. I'm like, why? He said, you're not getting on this plane. Said, what do you mean I'm not getting on the plane? He said, you're not getting on the plane. I said, for what? Saying I like the way the sunglasses are on your head. And sure enough, I did not get on. I was flying to the Apex to commentate. He said, I'll call the police. I said, call the police. Then the police came. They're like, hey, Mr. Bisping, how you doing? Big fan. I'm like, this douchebag. And I told them, they said, yeah, they do it all the time, Michael. They do it. Sorry, you can't fly tonight. So I had to go home, jump in the car, and drive off to the Apex.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I've got a lot of these. You want another quick one?
Sure.
Quick one. Callum's just got accepted into San Francisco State University. He's on a scholarship. It's a great moment, right? Me and Callum are there. I'm so proud of him. We're happy. We're joyous. We get to San Francisco airport. We walk up to the security bit, and the woman was like being like, she's really snarky. And I said, oh, you're in a great mood, aren't you? And that was it. I mean, Callum, we're in a good mood. Like, I was so proud of him, and there was no alcohol or anything like that involved. I said, oh, you're in a good mood. You know, just something like that. When I got to the next part where you take your shoes off, 2 guards come over and they say, did you threaten to punch our colleague in the face? I'm like, excuse me, what did you say? We've been told that you threatened to punch our colleague in the face. Did you? And it was a woman, by the way. And I said, you don't even believe that I did that. He said, what do you mean? I said, because if you genuinely thought that, I would be in handcuffs right now.
Yeah.
You would not be asking me a question. You would be arresting me and taking me off to the police station. So you don't even believe that. And then he kind of died down, and Callum was all upset. I'm like, Callum, don't. They're looking for any excuse to not let us on this flight. And then I phoned the airline, right? And I'm like, I want the cameras, right? Because don't tell me I wasn't on camera. I know I was on camera, and I will pay for a lip reading specialist, right, to dictate what I said, because there was nothing like that said, and you caused all that shit. Anyway, they just never responded after a while, but I was hell bent on suing them.
Yeah, that's a big jump from you're in a great mood to I'm going to punch you in the face. Like, it's not like she misheard you. You know what I mean? It's not like
I swear to God,
you're not mixing them up.
It sounds like there's more to it that I'm not saying, but it's the craziest story. And I wouldn't bring it up unless it was that wild. If I'd kind of done it, if I'd had a few beers, if it was kind of being a prick, I'd maybe keep this one off the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that is what happened. Anyway, poor old Khabib.
Yeah, got booted. But apparently he got on a flight like an hour and a half later. So his patience and his calmness there at least paid off for him and didn't get like banned from flying or something like that.
Well, that's where being a Muslim pays off. Imagine if he'd had a few drinks.
Yeah. I'm just picturing myself in that situation. I would have been way less calm.
Paul, I've seen you when your headphones don't work properly. Let alone getting thrown off a plane. Anyway, this has been a good show. It's been a long show. We've been going for a while. Harrington and Brian, any final words for us, for the believers, before we let Paul go about his life? I'm in Medellin, Colombia. I got offered cocaine about 7 times.
No way.
I did. It's crazy. I went for a walk. I went to buy some stuff from a pharmacy.
It lives there.
Every 5 minutes, you want to buy cocaine?
Probably pretty pure there, huh?
I reckon it's good stuff.
They have it at the pharmacy there?
If I go missing for a while, you know what's happened. You know what's happened.
If we start getting 4 a.m. texts about how to improve the podcast, we know what's happening.
Yeah, we know exactly what's going on.
Exactly. Guys,
like Michael, just because it's dry January doesn't mean you got to start doing blow over there, buddy.
No, I know.
Cocaine is dry.
Because Perillo hasn't drank for a while. He's gone a year without drinking, but he doesn't like to talk about it. He's on like 5 months, went all the way through Christmas, and I haven't had a drink yet the whole time. And I saw him on Saturday, obviously for Mackenzie Derns' fight, and well done to her again. I said, you still not drinking? He's like, yep, nope, nothing. He said, oh, you're going to Colombia though. I said, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm not drinking. He goes, there'll be none of that going on. Don't be silly. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show.
One bump of that, you'd be drinking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, damn right I would. Thanks for watching. Paul, you're the man. Harrington, you're okay. Brian McKay's right. DM Harrington on Twitter and Instagram. And Felder is Paul. What is it? What's yours, Paul?
Just at Felder Paul. Felder Paul.
At Felder Paul. Give the boys a follow. Subscribe, ring the bell. See you soon.